Donald Trump finally spoke at the Republican National Convention, and, well, it went a lot worse than most people thought it was going to be. Before the speech, there were chirps of how he's a changed man now, and he'll speak to unity and bring in those from the middle, and all of this kind of nonsense, because once he started speaking, he quickly fell back into his normal old rally speeches, but with a lot less energy, and ended up coming off rather awkward, and it just didn't hit the way that they usually do, even for his MAGA crowd. So I have a few clips to look at, a fact check, as well as undecided voter opinion, so let's just jump right in.
By the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population.
Maxi pad on his ear and everything. He's up there giving the speech, and he still can't help but spin this lie. They're taking 107% of jobs, so all of them, and the extra 7% as well. That's amazing, at least in his fantasy land that he likes to live in, because in reality, we have 2 million more jobs than we have workers, so no one's jobs are under threat. They're not taking our jobs, and also undocumented immigrants typically take labor-intensive jobs, and those aren't the only kind of jobs that Black and Hispanic people work. I really hope he knows that. They also typically work undesirable jobs that would otherwise be left open or vacant by American workers.
We will reduce our debt, $36 trillion. We will start reducing that, and we will also reduce your taxes still further.
To be clear here, the 10-year debt approved by Trump absolutely dwarfs what Biden has approved. He nearly doubles it. You're not going to cut taxes and reduce debt unless, of course, you're going to cut programs like Medicare, Social Security, cut public school funding, things he tried to do at the end of his first term that he ran on doing in his second. You know, the things that the middle class actually relies on, all while the average middle class families will be getting somewhere between $300 and $900 for the entire year in this massive tax cuts he talks about that are only massive for corporations and the wealthy, because for the middle class, that's not enough for private health insurance, not enough to save for retirement or for private school, you know, the things that you're going to need to start thinking about when he cuts the public funding to those programs while netting the top 1% over $60,000.
Not anymore. Because in Venezuela, crime is down 72%. In fact, if they would ever win this election, I hate to even say that, we will have our next Republican convention in Venezuela because it will be safe. Our cities will be so unsafe, we won't be able. We will not be able to have it there. In El Salvador, murders are down by 70%. Why are they down?
Look at Trump shouting out communism. No, but the effect that he's trying to have is to pretend that our crime is so bad that we'll have to go to these other countries that are known for being violent. But no, not true at all. Violent crime has actually dropped year over year under Biden from where it spiked under Trump and is now at a 26% drop from Trump's where he left it off. And it's been lower than Trump ever had it for 3 years in a row. And because crimes of immigrants, or migrant crime, as Trump calls it, is where MAGA usually goes next, they commit far less of any type of crime than US born citizens. And yes, that's legal or undocumented.
He said Democrats are proposing to quadruple people's taxes. That is imaginary. He said his tax cut was the largest in American history, not even close again. He said the Biden administration does nothing to stop migrants. Well, the administration tried to get Congress to pass a bill to tighten the border, and after Trump himself helped to kill that bill, Biden took executive action to tighten the border. Trump said he stopped human trafficking. Again, not true. He said China stopped buying oil from Iran under him. Also did not happen. He said foreign governments are deliberately sending criminals and mental health patients to the U.S. as migrants. His own campaign has been unable to provide proof for that. I certainly haven't found any myself. He said we defeated ISIS, 100% of ISIS, in a couple of months. In fact, the ISIS caliphate was declared fully liberated more than 2 years into his presidency. And there were other exaggerations about trade with China, about North Korean missile launches, about gas prices, about IRS agents.
It was the usual rambling of his accomplishments to make them seem like they were more than they were, because in reality, he didn't really have any, and acting like Biden's accomplishments were worse and way worse and had no effect or negative effects. When if you look at the GDP, even pre-COVID, like taking COVID out of the equation, Biden dwarfs Trump, and he also dwarfs him in when COVID is in the equation. There's more manufacturing jobs now than there were. Wages are outpacing inflation. Trump claims there was world peace. That's one of his biggest stakes as president. There are over 51 conflicts, hundreds of thousands of fatalities each year he was in office. Yemen, Syria, the Israel-Palestine conflict, Sudan. He just never did anything about any of these. They were going on while he was president. He kicked the can down to Biden. The list goes on. So it's all just a bunch of nonsense, really.
So I gave his speech a D.
Why?
It started out great, but then he went into mistruths and grievances and attacks, and it just totally contradicted itself in terms of what he wanted to achieve with unity.
His rhetoric hasn't changed about the election, 2020 election, and I'm really concerned that we're going to have another issue depending on who wins. So, I'm just really praying that if Trump wins, the guardrails of democracy will hold.
And these are focus groups of those in the middle who aren't leaning one way or the other and were undecided before hearing this convention and Trump's speech, and he managed to rub them all the way wrong. Nothing has changed in terms of his appeal to moderates, as much as MAGA wants to pretend that the shooting just brought everyone over to Trump's side, and continuing on with rhetoric like we saw him use at this rally, or the convention, I guess I should say, it's like his rally speeches, will only move him even further from doing that, as will his extreme MAGA vice president pick, J.D. Vance.